Hi team, welcome back. I am Dom from NZPA, and in today's video I'm very excited to bring to you guys, of course, none other than the Sheffield 2025 breakdown for Karlina Tongotea. And this is our breakdown on how Karlina was able to steal a podium finish at Sheffield. And yes, I am not ashamed to say that we stole that podium spot because that's exactly what we set out to do, was to steal it from anyone that was wanting to sleep on us a little bit there. And podium spot at silver nonetheless, but we are getting ahead of ourselves a little bit. I want to start from the beginning. Full disclaimer, this is a coach's perspective of Karlina's competition. So if you're more interested in her perspective and her experience um, from kind of in her own thoughts and in her own opinions of how things went from her perspective, again, go ahead and follow Karlina on IG. I'm sure she'll be invited to many podcasts and interviews, etc., that will be posted there. And of course, her own content where she will eloquently share her kind of again experience and thought process during the whole thing. Um, but without further ado, just want to take it back to the very beginning. Let's take it back to why it was so unexpected for most people, and why it was such a shock that Karlina was able to make it to the podium on Sheffield 2025. I believe that it was largely because of our world champs performance. Because of that, most predictions had Karlina lower on the standing. Let's be honest, we did underperform at world champs. Myself, I felt like mostly in terms of not getting her ready enough and not getting her strong enough for that world champs. But obviously, we were wanting to right that wrong for Sheffield, as we were fortunate enough to get invited and kind of again have the opportunity to right that wrong. In any case, most preview podcasts and other predictions on people's IGs and all that kind of stuff. Honestly, most people had their favorite lifters 5 to 10 kg up on each of their previous best lifts. Whilst the same people had Karlina chipping her best at most, and some of the same people had Karlina a little bit behind from her best. So obviously, clearly not applying the same logic and thought process across the board throughout all lifters, right? So favorite lifter, I'm gonna add 5 to 10 kgs to each of their lift. Oh, Karlina, oh, okay, maybe she'll chip it, maybe she's a little bit below. So again, if you're one of these people, you're at best intellectually inconsistent and at worst intellectually dishonest. I mean, hell, some people even had some of their favorite lifters drop a weight class mysteriously, even though they haven't shown any evidence that they would do that, right? Or any kind of signs that like they would randomly drop a weight class, right? Again, these kind of people, if you think this way, this is why exactly you were ultimately proven wrong by Karlina. If you're a coach, especially if you're the ones that were actually coaching at Sheffield, I expect for you people to actually do the maths prior to and as the competition was playing out. I'm sure I did see all of the coaches out back doing this, right? Because if you actually sit down and do the maths, the goal of podium finish for Karlina really wasn't that unrealistic, especially with a bit of help from other contenders by way of misses, which at any stage, international or local or otherwise, again, isn't really entirely unrealistic. I know it sounds like we're relying on the misfortune of others to get what we want out of the competition, but in our situation, part of finding success, again, like when you're in the position we're in, is understanding and accepting that our opportunity will arise when we put ourselves in a position to overachieve whilst whilst other underachieve. Okay, if we understand and accept that we need to overachieve and other people need to underachieve, if we understand and accept this, we can more quickly recognize the opportunity when it's starting to arise and make decisions and act to capitalize on the opportunity, which is exactly what happened in this competition. So again, let's talk a little bit about the prep. Okay, so firstly, straight off the back of World Champs, Karlina obviously and definitely needed to get much stronger. to break a world records that's not hers anymore. It's now Agatha's at 613. So to break the world record, Karlina would have to total at least 613.5. And to break it by a good margin, she definitely needed to come in much, much stronger than she did heading into world champs. So that's step one. That's my job, is to get her ready and stronger, or significantly stronger than she was at world champs. So we made the necessary adjustments to programming and training, and heading in, yes, she was definitely the strongest that she's ever been. And this is a testament to her openness and the openness she had in her approach to training and making the necessary adjustments, even this late into her powerlifting career. More often than not, most people, lifters this advanced, if you want to call it that, right, find it hard to make changes because they're so married to what they're currently doing. So we attacked this prep a lot more open-mindedness with making those necessary changes, which is good because, again, like, she was much stronger than she's ever been, and now we're set up to be able to steal that podium spot. Granted, the outcome ended up with a podium finish for Karlina, but we did think, as everyone else did, it would take much more to do so. So pre-competition, my maths had 2.5 to 2.8% break on the total world record to make the podium, with the primary contenders being Evie, Sonita, and one of the 63s, specifically Megan Scanlon. So let's break down a bit, or a lot more, a bit why that is. Okay, so I thought Megan would come out of the 63s victorious because she was looking the best out of all of them, to be frank. Leah and Alba seem to be the type of people to post their lifts if things are going well, but we just weren't seeing that much out of them, to be honest. And Megan looked like she was the one that was building the most momentum at the right time. And that's why Megan was the one that we kept the closer eye on out of all of the 63s. In saying that, because of the nature of her bench press, we really needed her to miss 2 bench presses. Conditions will have to be absolutely perfect for her on the day to hit her top end bench press, in my opinion. And the conditions on that day at Sheffield were not perfect for her, and we did end up getting the help that we needed from her. I thought the next person most likely to help us, again, like, help us, when I say help us, not intentionally, but help us unintentionally. But the next person I thought was most likely to help us was Sonita. Let's just say for the exact reasons that transpired on the day. The last person I thought that would give us help is Evie, and she helped us quite a bit too. And again, take that as a compliment because Evie's been consistent high performer the last 3 years or so. So again, that's the last person we thought would give us help. Um, Honestly, I thought any combination of the 2 of the 3 aforementioned situations, plus the addition of Karlina having to put 5 kilos on her squat, around about 2.5 to 5 kilos on her bench, and the world record deadlift at 262, should be enough to sneak on the podium. Instead, we got more help than we needed, and Karlina barely had to do the improvements that I just mentioned. But what she did need to do was bring her complete package to the platform, basically her personal best on each of those lifts, putting it together in one meet. And that was enough to get her to second place and obviously break the world record total. And here's how it all broke down lift by lift. Okay, so squats. Squats were okay. It was a nightmare at Worlds 6 months ago, so we knew that out of all the things that we had to make adjustments on, it would have to be this. We had to make adjustments on the squats. Karlina had to get her back squat up to her best previously from where it was at Worlds, and probably put 5 to 7 kilos on top of that as well. We knew that we needed the second attempt to be the world record at 231. And the third attempt, we had to get in a position that we were strong enough that on the third attempt, she was able to use that to generate buffer for the total world record and drag what she had to deadlift on the back end a little bit lower number to break the total world record. So again, squat world record on the second attempt, and then the third attempt was to lower the deadlift later on to break the total world record. Um, Apart from the programming changes we made, we did make a very subtle micro adjustment to her squat technique about 3 to 5 weeks out, which required a bit of practice to master. Still haven't completely mastered it, which showed on the day. Part of it is the programming change that we made, basically staying away from frequent heavy singles, and looked at 3 RMs, 4 RMs, 5 RM PBs, volume and back off PBs. Um, she took maybe 4 heavy single workouts from early September all the way up to this Sheffield, which was basically end of January, right? And that does include our nationals. So really, in terms of heavy singles for just workouts, she only took like really 3 heavy single workouts, spaced out in at least 4 weeks in between. I thought this was what she needed from a programming standpoint to generate a more robust base for the peak, but that also meant very few opportunities to practice heavy singles, especially with the newer adjustment. It did show when she pitched forward on the second and third attempt squats, with the third attempt enough of a miss groove to miss. But overall, she was able to put more than 5 kgs on her squat base because she was able to squat 235 in the gym relatively comfortably. So she did, again, like add at least 5 kgs to her squat, at least in training. Um, but with the mis-execution, still had enough or plenty to break the world record on her second. And also because of the amount of travel we have, most lifters from our end probably looking at like not just hitting their top end, but also generating a higher top end than what you would expect maybe when you travel 30 plus hours for a competition, just in case of any mishaps, right? But if everything goes smoothly, then you hit like a really, really big top end. So again, like generating a much higher top end than, let's say, necessary for someone that was competing from Europe because their travel is much shorter than ours. You know, just a lot more opportunity for kind of mishaps here and there in terms of flight delays, etc. for us, and that will take away a couple of kilos on our top end. In any case, she was able to put more than 5 kilos on her squat base, but only put half kilo in terms of like the actual comp results. Quickly recap, the plan was exactly what we attempted: 220, then 231 to secure the world record squat, and give her a 1 kg chip for later use on the total. Since the total is currently chipped by only half a kilo, so the total was 613, so it was a half a kilo chip from Agatha. But just to make sure that we're using the right chip, we need to make sure that we use a 1 kilo chip for her squats. Then to go to 236, again, keeping that 1 kilo chip for a total buffer, or a 238.5, again, 1 kilo chip, if she looked super duper strong. We did opt for 236 because of the missed groove second attempt, missed the 236 anyway, but still worth taking an attempt to create the space for the total world record, since Karlina already secured the squat world record on her second attempt anyways. So overall, we weren't mad about the squat outcome at all. Obviously, securing the squat world record was the primary goal. We knew we found something good in the programming and technical adjustments that will generate a higher ceiling for squats in the future as well. It'll just take some time to sharpen a bit, and we will need it given the season we have ahead, and you'll hear a bit about that later. As far as the other competitors go, or we're going, I was hoping for Evie to honestly have a good enough peak to risk taking a shot at the world record. I know that's a funny thing to say, but yeah, that's kind of what happened for her. But yeah, again, like hopefully, I wanted her peak to hopefully go well enough to risk a shot, taking a shot at the world record and perhaps missing. However, on her second attempt, it didn't move so great. So knowing Jason, I knew he wasn't going to take a risky third. Went with a more realistic third attempt at 172 and a half. Evie was able to make, which didn't help us at all. Actually, it just added space between Karlina and Evie because Karlina actually missed her third attempt. Sunita, again, let's just say I was hoping for camp to make the exact decisions they did for the exact reasons that it turned out, which definitely helped us big time. Um, Another notable miss, actually, low key underrated miss, was Amanda's, who was we were also keeping a close eye on just in case a 1-ish% record break was enough to podium, which it ended up being, and I know she's fully capable of. But I think missing her third squat cost her just too much, 10 kgs, and that was just like quite a lot to take away from her actually breaking the total world record on the back end. And yes, Karlina was entirely focused on herself, but my job was not to just focus on my lifter. I know I've heard some of the podcast recap. People thought that we were just focusing on ourselves. Yes, Karlina was doing that, but me as a coach, I at this level, that's not what I do. If I was just trying to do me and we're just trying to go and trying to go at our own pace, I'd probably fucking like just yeet random numbers in and just try to go for PBs or whatever. No, that was not what I was doing. What I was doing was paying attention to the state of the other competitors, paying attention to their physical state, how sharp they look technically, their psychological state out back in the comments and the conversations. I overhear how the other coaches are reacting to what's happening on the platform, if they are. Then take those into account, assess risks, make decisions accordingly, which definitely came into fruition during the bench press. Do you want to train like some of our world champion and world class powerlifters? Well, check out our NZPA training app, where you can get access to over 115 programs and training blocks with over 2,000 unique workouts. Our more convenient and affordable solution for those who are looking to add a bit of structure to their strength training at home or at the comfort of their own gym. Head over to nzpa.programs.app or simply click in the link in the description below. Come join the squad and train with us. Okay, so for the top end bench press, we had Karlina at 132 to 130. The original plan was to go 125, 130, 132.5. But judging how things have been playing out, and again, paying attention to how things were playing out during the competition, judging by how things were playing out, we actually dropped to 122.5 opener just out of pure instinct. In this case, it will only take probably 130 on our third attempt bench for Karlina, since we needed a lot more help from Evie and Megan at this stage, who both went 3 for 3 in the squats. Because they went 3 for 3 in the squats, we're gonna need a lot more help from them anyways. So we might as well opt for kind of the more conservative route or the more conservative top end for Karlina. So the plan did change, 122, 127.5 or 122.5 and then 127.5 and then 130. I would only take the risky 132.5 if and only if we really needed to, if Evie and Megan weren't helping us. But we didn't end up needing to do that. And honestly, it was easy enough to recognize that we didn't need 132.5 given the misses started happening early on the bench press session. Megan and Alba started missing on their second bench, and Evie started missing on her second bench too. And the way they missed it made me believe third wasn't really going to be there. I definitely want to say that Evie missing was the biggest surprise for us, especially on the second or from the second onwards, since she's been so consistent the last 3 years or so. And I don't know the reasons behind it. Only that the outcome was probably the biggest help for us, and that doesn't go past us. Like that was probably the biggest help for Karlina making it onto the podium, let alone second place. I also started hearing whispers of bench rigidity being an issue for some of the lifters. I just want to say that if I start hearing such things from other competitors at this level, all I know is that I just smell blood in the water. That's it. Because there's no help coming to you. Like there's no help barring, we randomly change the bench pad mid bench session, which isn't gonna happen. So no help's gonna come for you. If I start hearing this, there's just blood in the water. That's it. Um, I think what helped Karlina is, while yes, she has made strides in the technical sharpness of her bench, one thing that we really pushed this prep was her physical brute force on her builders, like dumbbell bench press and dips. Karlina's variance in performance isn't as volatile technically as other lifters, perhaps, because she has built up a lot more physical or brute force from her own training. I don't know what the training are of the other competitors, but that's how we built Karlina's bench press up for this prep in particular. Um, the main thing here is Karlina's execution on the bench of all lifts, while others struggled to. Sometimes you just have to accept that it's not the time to to thrive, since everyone is just struggling to survive. Okay, on the bench portion of the competition. So again, accept it's not the time to thrive, everyone's struggling to survive on the bench press. And Karlina was just the one that was actually able to fight to survive through the bloodbath on the bench press, in all honesty. And on Karlina's third bench of 130, even though it's not a big PB or it's not a PB for her, you see me lose my shit, hitting the raid guns on the lights. Because between the misses from the other competitors and Karlina going 130 on bench, I mean, I knew she was on the podium. Like, this is when we knew she was on the podium, or when I knew she was on the podium. 130 bench, doing the math for the other lifters in between, 12 attempts or whatever. I knew 130 was the podium lift. That was the lift. That was the lift that got her on the podium. It wasn't the deadlift. Okay, so why do I say that? Why do I say the bench was when we knew she was on the podium? Because subtotal's done. At this stage, it's all maths. Okay, what will Karlina have to deadlift in comparison to her other competitors to make it to the podium? What's probably locked in for Karlina at this stage is that her second attempt deadlift will have to be 252.5 to break the total world record. Okay, and secure that. Okay, no matter what, we'll probably have to take that for a second. No matter how it looked, how it moves, that would be the lift to break the total world record. But what will Karlina have to deadlift to secure the podium? That would be the number for the third attempt. Okay, the way it worked out, or the way I worked it out, is simple. Honestly, beat Evie, and we're probably in a good spot. Avoid looking at Sonita, since she will be a distraction to us, and she'll pull after us anyway. We can't control what she pulls, and we're gonna need her to miss the way she did anyways. Okay, and in the peripherals, just Megan, Leah, and Tiff, all of whom deadlift before Karlina anyways. So the final pull will likely have to be calculated after Leah pulls anyways. Okay, but before that, you can pretty much predict what the other competitors are handcuffed to attempting. So for example, Evie is handcuffed to either attempting 207.5 on her third attempt deadlift, or to secure the world record total, or 209.5 on her third attempt deadlift to secure both the world record total and the world record deadlift. So both of which will slingshot her to second place. In this scenario, Karlina would need to pull 255 to 257.5 for a high to moderate probability third attempt, respectively. So basically, if Evie opts for 207 and makes it, Karlina will have to pull 255. If she opts for 209.5, Karlina will have to pull 257.5. But again, we get to see what she puts in, and we get to see if she makes or misses her third attempt deadlift anyways. Tiff, similarly, could take the lead on her second attempt as she attempts to break the world record, but Karlina will have final say with similar numbers to like Evie anyways, in terms of what we'll have to pull. And also, Tiff started missing on her second attempt deadlift, which was to break the world record total. Megan, who after the second deadlifts on the 63s, was looking like the most likely out of the 363s to make her third deadlift. However, Megan was also handcuffed to 220 to break the world record total. So her third attempt was always going to be 220 to break the world record total and secure the money on that. So again, fairly predictable third attempts. If Megan makes her third attempt 220, Karlina will have to pull 255 on her third attempt. So again, the number is like around about 255 to 257 circa. And both numbers are high to moderate percentage, or not high to moderate percentage, high to moderate probability attempts for Karlina for a third attempt. What's interesting here is we opt to use Karlina's second attempt to secure the world record total and take second place lead, as opposed to just using the second attempt to secure to just have it as a bridge attempt, so to speak. Okay, which ended up being crucial for us, since all of our other direct podium competitors used their second attempt as a bridge attempt. Okay, and then all of them missed their third attempts. Okay, so what happens effectively is Karlina secures the podium spot with her second attempt even before she touches her third attempt deadlift. So again, a difficult second attempt for Karlina with 252.5, but it was totally worth it for us to take it given the stakes, as opposed to just taking a meaningless second attempt bridge attempt deadlift that doesn't give us any placing progression. Okay, so we took the placing on the second, because no matter how hard it was going to be, it didn't matter for us anyways, because the position was more important than just, again, like taking a nothing second, like a bridge second. Even if it meant like that the 255 257 was gonna be harder because we just took a 252.5. Yeah, that's the main thing here. I think that's one of the main difference. Obviously, Tiff made the same decision. It just didn't work out as well for her in terms of an execution standpoint, actually making the lift. I do, just on a quick aside, I do hear a lot of heavy criticism on the French's attempt selection because of Tiff's outcome, which I thought was really unnecessarily unnecessary, like criticizing the process for Tiff's attempt selection. But really, if you look at it, her attempt selection process isn't really that too different from ours. The difference is just Karlina made her lifts and Tiff didn't. So the thought process between the attempt selection isn't that different. It was just a difference in execution. We were obviously congratulated for our process, but really on the only difference is the execution. Okay, and the outcome was different, obviously. But just like Tiff's camp, we were willing to take more than 3 hard attempts. Okay, so just think about that. We were willing to take more than 3 hard attempts on, and because most people, they come into either this competition or just other competitions in general, they come in only willing to take 3 hard attempts: their third attempt squat, their third attempt bench, and the third attempt deadlift. Given the position we were in, or the position Karlina was in, we knew we had to probably take 5 or 6 hard attempts. Like a couple of the second attempts will have to be harder than what we would like to normally. Okay, just given our position. Okay, and we were prepared to do that through our training, and we were prepared to do that obviously in action and competition. In any case, just to quickly recap, we needed 4 people to miss. Tiff, Evie, actually, we needed 5 people to miss, who was all gunning for second attempt. Tiff, Evie, Megan Scanlon, Leah, and Alba, they were all trying to pull for second attempt and break the world record total. All of them missed. Okay. The only difference is, again, Karlina already broke the world record total on her second attempt. So before she even tried her third attempt deadlift, we were already second attempt. Now, the only thing here, obviously, is we had 1 more attempt left. The final attempt we reserved to just nudge Sonita's final deadlift from 2 white lights to 2 red lights. So instead of trying to take a risky third attempt, we just go from 252.5 to 255, which in theory doesn't move us placing. But again, it's just to make Sonita's final deadlift 2.5 kilos more difficult to lock out, which ended up happening. Okay, the initial call was 2-1, good lift for Sunita's final deadlift, which honestly we really didn't mind because we've already secured the podium at this stage, which is what we originally wanted. But when we heard the overturn, silver was the color of the icing on the cake. That made Karlina's third deadlift grind, adding just 2.5 kilos on top of Sunita's final pull, much more valuable. Um, you don't really you don't really hear or know about the moment actually if you're watching it on the live stream, since it was completely missed by the commentators during the men's portions of the deadlifts. So the overturn happened as the men's deadlifts were happening on the live stream. And I think I tried to watch it. I tried to watch all the squats. I think basically the commentators just didn't announce that Sonita's deadlift was overturned. So if you're watching on the live stream, you would have only known that Karlina made the podium spot once the men's deadlifts were finished. We didn't really care at the stage because obviously we were told, because we were there, we were informed out back right before the men's session started for the deadlifts. The TC just yelled out back to me and said, Sonita's last deadlift overturned, Karlina second. So I had to rush to Karlina at a separate room to tell her while she was being notified of her drug testing, which is the video that you saw being posted on the Sheffield IG. Honestly, what a moment. We knew Karlina could do it. Less than a handful of people on planet Earth believe she could do it. You know, people say, oh, I believe in you and all that kind of stuff. But really, truly believe that she could do it. There's only less than a handful of people that did so. And obviously, those people were in our camp. But a podium finish at Sheffield with a silver nonetheless. Happy days for the team, happy days for the camp. If you didn't see it coming, if you didn't see that coming, that's on you. But damn, it feels good to be underestimated by everyone, and Karlina sneaking an uppercut for this podium finish. Yeah, that's it. Thanks for everyone that did support us on our journey. What's next for Karlina? It's a huge year of international competition, so it's just the start of the season, funnily enough, with a high to start the season, right? So firstly, next is the World Championships at June. She'll be 76, looking to reclaim her 76 kilo world title. And then shortly after that, very shortly after that, World Games, where the 69s and the 76 will be competing under the same weight class, but the competition will be based off GL points. Right now, obviously, Agata's on a side with a 130 GL points, but right now, Karlina's quite up there with the rest of the pack trying to get that silver again on GL points for World Games. But again, depends on how we pivot from World Champs and how well we pivot from that. Unsure about Oceania Champs just yet. Only reason why I'm even saying we're unsure is because Oceania is actually in New Zealand this year. We're just not sure if we're going to do that, and if we do end up doing that, it's probably going to be at 84s, and it's probably going to be a pretty chill comp, similar to what we do at nationals almost every year. But again, we might just not do it at all and give others an opportunity to do that. So for this season, for the rest of the season, the primary goal is to stay healthy and pace well for the season, push at the right times. Again, because this is going to be Karlina's biggest international competitive year just yet. And lastly, of course, thank you for Karlina for obviously her execution and allowing me to coach her, not just obviously on the day, but allowing me to coach her and coach her hard for this prep. And being open and aggressive with the programming changes and adjustments that we made for this prep. Obviously paid out for us, and looking forward to keep on attacking for the rest of the season. Until then, thanks for tuning in, and see you later. Peace.